We all have moments in life when we face pain, rejection, or failure. It's part of being human. But here's the truth: pain doesn't have to define us. It doesn't have to hold us back. In fact, it can be the very thing that fuels our growth, our resilience, and our strength. Dear, I want to talk to you today about how we can use our pain as a tool, not as something that weighs us down, but as something that lifts us up, that empowers us, that transforms us, that transforms us. You see, pain is not a sign of weakness. It's not a punishment to us. It's a teacher, a guide, a catalyst for change. When we allow ourselves to fully experience our pain, when we lean into it instead of running from it, we start to discover our true power. Our pain becomes a bridge that leads us from the darkness of despair to the light of self-empowerment. But here's the thing: pain doesn't automatically lead to strength. It's how we choose to respond to that pain that makes all the difference. Do we let it define us in negative ways? Or do we use it as a stepping stone to become a better version of ourselves? We are not defined by the things that happen to us, but by how we choose to show up in the world in spite of them. Vulnerability is often seen as something to avoid. In our culture, we're taught to hide our weaknesses, to keep our struggles to ourselves, and to put on a brave face no matter what we're going through. We're told that showing vulnerability is a sign of weakness, that it makes us less than some. But vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the cornerstone of courage, strength, and connection. And yes, pain often makes us feel vulnerable, but that's where the transformation begins. When we embrace vulnerability, we open ourselves up to the possibility of healing and growth. Growth. Imagine for a moment that you stop running from your pain and choose to face it head on. You allow yourself to be raw, to experience the depth of your emotions without fear or shame. In those moments, you realize something profound. Your pain doesn't diminish you. It humanizes you. It makes you more real, more authentic. And that authenticity is where your true strength lies. Being vulnerable doesn't mean being weak. It means that you're willing to face the hard things, to sit with discomfort, and to trust that even in the darkest moments, there is motion waiting for you. Vulnerability is the willingness to say, I am not okay right now, and that's okay. It's allowing yourself to admit that you're struggling, that you're hurting, and that you don't have all the answers. But it's also knowing that by embracing that vulnerability, you're taking the first step toward healing. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we also allow others to see us for who we truly are. We let go of the mask, the facade, and we show up in our most authentic form. And when we show up authentically, we invite others to do the same. This creates a space for connection, a space where people can relate to our struggles and we can relate to theirs. Vulnerability is what forges deep, meaningful connections with others, because it's in our vulnerability that we realize we're not alone. We all carry burdens, we all experience pain, and we all long for understanding. But embracing vulnerability isn't always easy. It requires us to trust ourselves, to trust others, and to trust the process. It's a journey that demands courage and honesty. And sometimes it feels safer to close ourselves off, to protect our hearts from further hurt. But when we do this, we miss out on the possibility of real growth. Pain, when embraced fully, becomes a teacher. It shows us where we need to heal, what we need to let go of, and what we need to grow into. The moment we stop fighting our vulnerability is the moment we start to truly transform. We start to truly transform. In the face of pain, vulnerability is not something that makes us weaker. It's what makes us stronger. It's not about pretending that we don't feel hurt, but about acknowledging that hurt and using it to fuel our growth. Think about a time when you've been truly vulnerable with someone, when you let down your guard and shared your deepest fears, your insecurities, your pain. Chances are that moment created a bond that was far more meaningful than any surface-level interaction could ever provide. That connection, that authenticity, is what makes us human. When we embrace our vulnerability, we start to see our pain in a different light. We realize that pain doesn't have to be something to avoid or fear. Instead, it becomes a tool for transformation. It is through vulnerability that we learn how to rise, how to rebuild, and how to rise, how to rebuild, and how to emerge stronger than before. It teaches us that our scars don't define us. They simply mark the places where we've been broken and where we've healed. Embrace your vulnerability, because in that very act, you are embracing your power to transform your pain into strength. It's easy to believe that if we just push through the pain, if we just keep our heads down and keep moving forward, everything will eventually be okay. We convince ourselves that time will heal all wounds, that if we keep ourselves busy, we won't have to face the hurt. We won't have to face the hurt. But the truth is, avoiding our pain doesn't make it go away. In fact, it often prolongs the suffering. When we try to numb our pain, whether it's through distractions, unhealthy habits, or even shutting down emotionally, we aren't healing. We're simply delaying the inevitable. Pain has a way of showing up, sometimes in ways we least expect, until we finally choose to face it head on. The problem with hiding from our pain is that it doesn't allow us to fully process our emotions. Pain, when acknowledged and faced, can become a powerful tool for healing and growth. But when we run from it, we miss the opportunity to understand what it's trying to teach us. Pain doesn't just happen for no reason. It is a signal, a messenger telling us that something needs to be addressed. Something needs to be addressed. Whether it's a loss, a rejection, a failure, or a personal struggle, pain is asking us to pay attention. To look inward and ask ourselves, what is this moment showing me? What do I need to learn here? When we suppress our pain, we risk carrying it around with us in unhealthy ways. It can show up as physical tension, mental exhaustion, or even in patterns of negative thinking. We might find ourselves snapping at loved ones, feeling overwhelmed by seemingly small problems, or losing motivation altogether. The weight of unresolved pain can take a significant toll on our well-being, affecting not just our emotional health, but also our physical health. The longer we avoid our pain, the more it can manifest in destructive ways. But when we face it directly, we allow ourselves to process it and release it, clearing the way for healing. Facing our pain is not about pretending. It doesn't hurt. It's about giving ourselves permission to feel the hurt deeply and fully. And while it might feel uncomfortable at first, Sitting with our pain is an act of self-compassion. It's telling ourselves, I'm not going to rush through this. I'm going to give myself the time and space to heal. Voila. Ends. There is no timeline for healing, and there is no shame in taking the time to fully experience and understand our pain. The process of confronting it may not be easy, but it is necessary. Only then can we start to make sense of it and use it to fuel our growth. Sometimes the fear of pain is greater than the pain itself. We worry that if we open ourselves up to it, we might be consumed by it, that we might never recover. But the opposite is true. When we choose to face our pain, we gain a sense of control. We stop letting it rule us from the shadows. Instead, we step into the light and claim our power. We tell ourselves that we are strong enough to endure this moment, that we are capable of handling whatever comes our way. In this way, confronting our pain doesn't make us weaker. It makes us stronger. It is the very act of acknowledging our hurt that allows us to rise above it. There is a tremendous amount of growth that happens when we face our pain. It forces us to dig deep, to reflect, and to gain insight into our own emotional landscape. We start to understand our triggers, our coping mechanisms, and the patterns that have held us back. We become more self-aware, more compassionate with ourselves, and more attuned to our needs. Jesus. And more attuned to our needs. Pain is often a mirror, reflecting to us the areas of our lives that require attention. And when we confront it, we can make meaningful changes that not only help us heal, but help us evolve into better versions of ourselves. It's important to remember that confronting our pain doesn't mean we have to do it alone. We don't have to navigate it in isolation. In fact, one of the most healing things we can do is reach out for support, whether it's from a therapist, a loved one, or a community of people who understand what we're going through. Sharing our pain doesn't make us weak. It makes us human. It creates space for connection, for empathy, and for healing. It reminds us that we don't have to carry the weight of our struggles alone. By facing our pain together, we share in the strength and resilience that comes from vulnerability and support. Ultimately, choosing to face our pain head-on is a form of empowerment. It is a choice to reclaim our narrative, to take back control of our lives. Pain doesn't have to define us, but how we respond to it does. By confronting our hurt, we move from a place of victimhood to a place of agency. To a place of agency. We recognize that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. We can choose to rise, to heal, and to become stronger. In the end, it's not the pain that holds power over us. It's our decision to face it, to work through it, and to grow from it. Pain is often viewed as something to avoid, something to escape from, it as a negative force, a mark of suffering that we need to get rid of as quickly as possible. However, what if we started to see pain not as an enemy, but as a teacher? Pain has an incredible capacity to offer lessons that we might miss if we're too focused on running from it. When we take the time to truly sit with our pain, to examine it with curiosity, we begin to uncover the wisdom it has to offer. It's through our pain that we often find the clarity we need to grow and evolve. Pain, in its essence, is a call to pay attention. It is an invitation to reflect on what is no longer serving us and what needs to change. When we experience emotional or physical pain, it often signals that there is an imbalance somewhere in our lives. Perhaps it's a relationship that needs mending, a boundary that needs setting, or a belief that no longer aligns with who we are becoming. Pain brings these things to the surface. It's forcing us to acknowledge what we've been avoiding or what we've been too busy to address. It's not always easy to face, but it's in this confrontation with discomfort that we often find the insight we need to move forward. One of the most powerful lessons pain can teach us is resilience. When we experience hardship, we are given the opportunity to discover our own inner strength. We may not feel strong in the moment, but as we navigate through the storm, we learn just how capable we are. Just how capable we are. Pain teaches us that we are far more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. It shows us that we can survive, even thrive, in the face of adversity. Though, every time we face our pain and rise from it, we add another layer to our resilience, building the strength needed to tackle the challenges that lie ahead. Pain doesn't make us weak. It fortifies us, helping us become more adaptable, more grounded, and more confident in our ability to face life's ups and downs. Another invaluable lesson pain offers is the power of self-awareness. When we experience pain, whether it's emotional or physical, we are forced to slow down and listen. We are forced to pay attention to what's going on inside of us, to the thoughts, feelings, and reactions that arise. Pain disrupts our normal flow, forcing us to examine ourselves more closely. This introspection helps us better understand our triggers, our desires, and the places within ourselves that need healing. Pain illuminates parts of us that might otherwise remain hidden. And by acknowledging these aspects, we open the door to deeper self-knowledge and personal growth. In addition to resilience and self-awareness, pain also teaches us empathy. The more we experience pain, the more we are able to understand and connect with the suffering of others. It's through our own struggles that we develop the capacity to hold space for others who are going through difficult times. Pain reminds us that we are all human and that no one is immune to hardship. It helps us realize that we don't need to have all the answers, that sometimes just being present with someone else in their pain is enough. This kind of empathy fosters deeper relationships, allowing us to create meaningful connections with others who are walking similar paths. Pain also serves as a reminder of our impermanence. When we are in the midst of intense suffering, it can feel as though it will last forever. But with time, we begin to realize that no pain is permanent. Just as joy and peace come and go, so does pain. This understanding doesn't diminish the validity of our pain, but rather it offers a sense of comfort. This too shall pass. His too shall pass. In acknowledging the temporary nature of pain, we are able to approach it with a bit more patience and acceptance, knowing that while the experience may be difficult, it will eventually evolve, and we will too. Finally, pain teaches us the importance of letting go. It teaches us the importance of letting go. Whether it's letting go of old beliefs, toxic relationships, or unhelpful patterns, Pain often shows us what we need to release in order to move forward. Pain has a way of bringing us face to face with the parts of our lives that no longer serve us, making it impossible to ignore them. In this way, pain becomes a catalyst for transformation. By acknowledging the need to let go, we clear the path for new beginnings, new opportunities, and new ways of being. So, pain makes room for growth by forcing us to relinquish what's no longer useful, allowing us to make space for the things that are meant to come next in our lives. When we begin to view pain as a teacher, we shift our relationship with it. Instead of resisting, we start to embrace it, recognizing that it holds valuable lessons that can propel us forward. Pain has the power to shape us into stronger, wiser, and more compassionate individuals if we allow it. It offers us the opportunity to grow in ways we might not have imagined, to learn from our struggles and emerge more resilient. Rather than avoiding or denying our pain, we can choose to see it as a guide, one that helps us uncover the hidden strengths within ourselves, connect with others in deeper ways, and become the best version of who we're meant to be. The idea of strength is often misunderstood in our society. We tend to associate strength with invincibility, with an image of someone who can endure hardship without breaking. We admire those who seem unshaken by adversity, who continue to stand tall, no matter how much life knocks them down. However, true strength doesn't lie in the ability to avoid failure or hardship. In fact, real strength is revealed when we fall. It's in those moments of vulnerability, when we're knocked down, that we have the opportunity to rise again stronger and more resilient than before. Strength isn't about being unbreakable. It's about having the courage to rise after being broken. We live in a world that often equates strength with never showing weakness, with pushing through, no matter the cost. But in reality, strength is not about never stumbling. It's about how we pick ourselves up after we fall. Every fall we experience, whether it's a failure in our personal life, a setback in our career, or a disappointment in our relationships, teaches us something valuable. We learn about our limits, our vulnerabilities, and our capacity for recovery. These lessons are essential to developing a deeper, more profound strength that isn't just about enduring life's trials, but about embracing them as opportunities. His opportunities. Just our vumful. When we fall, we often experience feelings of shame, guilt, or fear. We worry that others will see our failures, that we'll be judged or rejected. But the truth is, it's through our falls that we develop empathy and understanding. 8. We start to realize that everyone experiences setbacks and no one is immune to failure. It is in our failures that we discover our shared humanity. These experiences remind us that we're all in this together, that no one is together, that no one is truly invulnerable. By embracing our own falls, we also begin to embrace the humanity in others, and that empathy helps us connect on a much deeper level. Falling also gives us the opportunity to reflect and reevaluate. When things don't go as planned, we are forced to slow down and take stock of the situation. It's in these moments that we can ask ourselves, what went wrong? What can I learn from this? How can I do better next time? Failure, then, is not a sign of weakness, but a gift of self-reflection. It opens the door to new insights and strategies. If we never fell, we would never have the chance to examine ourselves, our choices, and our paths. Each fall is an invitation to adjust and improve, to be more thoughtful in our approach, and to refine our character. Strength is also about resilience, the ability to keep going even after facing setbacks. It's easy to keep moving forward when everything is going smoothly, but resilience is built in the face of adversity. When we fall, we can choose to stay down, to allow ourselves to be defined by the setback. To be defined by the setback. But the stronger choice, the braver choice, is to rise again every time we choose to get back up, to face our challenges head on despite the pain. We build our resilience. It's a muscle that strengthens over time, allowing us to weather even more difficult storms with grace and determination. Sir. In this sense, our falls don't weaken us. They empower us by building our resilience and preparing us for the future. Another important aspect of strength that falls teach us is the ability to embrace imperfection. We live in a world that often rewards perfection, that tells us we must be flawless in order to succeed. But perfection is a myth. Everyone has moments of failure. Every person has times when they don't succeed as planned. Our falls remind us that we are all imperfect beings, and that's okay. And that's okay. Strength isn't about never making mistakes. It's about accepting our imperfections and learning from them. It's about having the courage to try again, to pick ourselves up and keep moving forward despite the fact that we will never be perfect. When we fall, we also learn the importance of patience, both with ourselves and with others. Rising after a fall isn't something that happens instantly. It takes time, and that's okay. We have to be patient with ourselves as we navigate the process of healing, learning, and rebuilding. Strength, in this case, is about giving ourselves the grace to take our time. There's no rush to get back to where we were before. The process of recovery and growth is a journey that unfolds at its own pace. Similarly, when we witness others fall, we learn to extend that same patience and compassion to them. This is compassion to them. Strength is not about pushing ourselves or others to bounce back immediately. It's about allowing the time needed to rise again. Lastly, falling shows us that strength isn't always visible. The moments when we fall may not look like strength to the outside world. We might seem vulnerable, defeated, or broken, but what others often fail to see is the quiet strength we gain in those moments of struggle. Strength is not always loud or flashy. It's the quiet resilience that develops when no one is watching. It develops when no one is watching. It's the inner strength that allows us to rise again after a fall, even when we feel as though we've lost everything. The true measure of strength is not in how we appear when we're on top, but in how we handle ourselves when you're at our lowest. Then, true strength is not about never falling. It's about learning to rise after we do. It's about embracing our failures as opportunities for growth, finding resilience in the face of adversity, and allowing ourselves the grace to fall and rise again. Each fall teaches us something new about ourselves, about our capacity for growth, and about the strength we already possess within us. Strength is not something we are born with, but something we cultivate through every trial and triumph, every setback and success. It's in our willingness to fall and get back up that we truly become strong. Pain is one of life's most universal experiences, but it doesn't have to define us in a negative way. Sure. And so, instead of seeing pain as an insurmountable obstacle or something that makes us weaker, what if we reframed it as an opportunity to transform ourselves? Pain has the power to teach us, mold us, and ultimately strengthen us. And it is through our struggles that we gain insight into who we really are, what we truly value, and what we need to heal and grow. If we allow it, pain can be the catalyst for our personal evolution, helping us move from a place of suffering to one of empowerment and strength. To use pain as a transformative force, we must first acknowledge it. So often, we try to push our pain away, to ignore it, or to pretend it isn't there. We bury our emotions, thinking that if we just avoid them, they will disappear. But pain that is ignored never truly goes away. Instead, it festers beneath the surface, growing more powerful and more destructive over time. To transform pain, we must face it head on, no matter how uncomfortable it feels. We must sit with it, reflect on it, and allow it to show us what it needs to teach us. This is not about wallowing in suffering. It's about fully experiencing it so that we can learn from it and ultimately use it for growth. Pain, when approached with awareness, can reveal the areas of our lives that are in need of attention. And often, our pain is not just an isolated event. It's a sign that something deeper is at play. Whether it's an emotional wound from a past relationship, a physical injury that signals a need for rest, or the pain of failure that calls us to reassess our goals. Pain serves as a wake-up call. It's a reminder that something in our lives needs to change. Pain has a way of shining a light on the parts of us that are broken or neglected. By paying attention to it, we can begin to understand where healing is needed, and this understanding is the first step in transforming our pain into something positive. In the process of transformation, pain teaches us valuable lessons about resilience. It is the courage to be authentic, to face our fears, and to open ourselves to connection. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we create space for authenticity in our lives. We no longer have to hide behind a facade or wear a mask to protect ourselves. Vulnerability means showing up exactly as we are, flaws, fears, and all. And being comfortable with our imperfections. It allows us to let go of the pressure to be perfect and gives us permission to simply be human. In a world where so much emphasis is placed on appearance and success, vulnerability allows us to connect on a deeper level. It's through vulnerability that we can form real, meaningful relationships with others. Relationships built on trust, empathy, and shared experiences, rather than on superficial facades. However, vulnerability is not about being weak or passive. In fact, it requires an immense amount of inner strength. It means showing up, even when we're afraid, and allowing ourselves to be seen in our most raw and unfiltered state. When we embrace vulnerability, we open ourselves to the possibility of rejection, disappointment, or failure. Yet, we choose to take that risk anyway. This is where the strength lies, not in avoiding pain, but in facing it with courage and openness. Vulnerability asks us to be willing to experience discomfort in the pursuit of something greater: connection, growth, and self-acceptance. One of the most transformative aspects of vulnerability is its power to foster connection. To foster connection. When we are vulnerable with others, we allow them to see our true selves, and in doing so, we create an opportunity for them to do the same. Vulnerability breaks down walls and bridges the gaps that often keep us isolated and disconnected from the people around us. It is through shared vulnerability that we create trust, intimacy, and a sense of belonging. By allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, we give others permission to be vulnerable too. It is in these moments of openness and shared experience that the deepest connections are formed. The deepest connections are formed. Another important lesson of vulnerability is that it teaches us to embrace uncertainty. Life is full of unknowns, and much of our fear comes from the inability to control or predict what will happen next. Vulnerability is about accepting that uncertainty and choosing to show up anyway. When we embrace vulnerability, we are saying that we are willing to face the unknown, to take chances, and to trust that even if things don't turn out the way we expect, we will be okay. Vulnerability doesn't promise us success, but it does promise us success. But it does promise us growth. It allows us to step outside our comfort zones, to explore new possibilities, and to learn from whatever outcomes we encounter. Vulnerability also teaches us the importance of self-compassion. In a world that often values perfection and achievement, it's easy to become our own harshest critics and achievement. It's easy to become our own harshest critics. We can be so focused on meeting external expectations that we forget to show kindness and understanding toward ourselves. Vulnerability invites us to treat ourselves with the same compassion that we would offer to a friend. It reminds us that we are worthy of love and acceptance, even in our moments of imperfection and failure. By being vulnerable, we give ourselves permission to be human, to make mistakes, and to learn from them without judgment or shame. Finally, vulnerability is an act of courage. It requires us to face our fears, to expose our weaknesses, and to take emotional risks. It can feel terrifying to be vulnerable, especially when we fear rejection or ridicule. But it's in these moments of fear that we discover our true strength. Choosing vulnerability over silence or concealment is a powerful declaration of self-worth. It says, "I am enough, just as I am, and I am willing to show up and share myself with the world." Vulnerability asks us to step into the arena, to be brave in the face of uncertainty, and to trust that the rewards of connection and growth are worth the risks we take. In the end, vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. It is a profound strength. It is the courage to face the unknown, to be authentic in a world that often pressures us to be something we're not, and to embrace our imperfections as part of what makes us human. Vulnerability allows us to connect with others on a deeper level, to foster empathy, and to create lasting bonds. It teaches us to be kind to ourselves, to embrace uncertainty, and to be courageous in the face of fear. And vulnerability, in all its forms, is the gateway to a more meaningful and fulfilled life, one that is rich with connection, growth, and true strength. Embracing vulnerability is not an easy path, but it is the path to living a fuller, richer, and more connected life. Tread more connected life. It challenges us to step outside our comfort zones, to be honest with ourselves and others, and to face the uncertainties of life with courage. In doing so, we transform not only our own lives, but also the lives of those around us. The power of vulnerability lies in its ability to break down barriers, to foster deeper connections, and to remind us that we are all worthy of love, compassion, and belonging, just as we are. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we give ourselves the gift of authenticity and, in turn, create a life that is grounded in true strength and connection. So, let's choose vulnerability, not as a weakness, but as the powerful, transformative force that it is.